All right, welcome back, everyone. So we've made our way through the first 6 chapters of Dr. Siegfried Castell Britton's incredible book, Dangerous Minds. And today we are hitting what I think is the absolute heart of his work, Chapter 7, The Wounded Soul. We're about to dig into this really profound idea that the roots of violence and the seeds of redemption, well, they grow in the very same soil. And this quote, this is everything. This is the core idea of the entire chapter. What Dr. Britton is arguing is that the very same pain that can drive someone to do something terrible, that same pain also holds the key to healing. It's a paradox, right? And it really forces you to rethink what justice is all about.
Okay, so let's get into the roots of this wound. Dr. Britton's first big point is a game changer. Violence, he says, isn't usually born from some kind of abstract evil. No, it's born from something very real. A history of deprivation, a deep hunger to be seen, and this profound feeling of being abandoned.
And get this isn't just some poetic idea, it's science. Neuroscience has actually shown that when you experience rejection or humiliation or just plain indifference, your brain's alarm bells go off in the exact same way as if you were physically attacked. Think about that. It literally rewires how we learn to trust, how we connect with people, how we survive.
This leads to what he calls a moral wound. It's that fracture that happens often when you're a little kid, when you learn that love is either unreliable or straight up dangerous. And what does the mind do? It starts building walls. It puts up defenses. And what starts as a shield to protect you from pain can, over time, become a prison that traps you inside.
So how does a mind actually defend itself from that kind of wound? Well, to survive, Dr. Britton says it comes up with these incredible unconscious strategies to basically hide what it can't bear to face. This is our inner armor. You and I, we know them as defense mechanisms.
And you've probably heard of these, right? Dissociating, rationalizing, projecting your own stuff onto other people, or just feeling numb. And here's the fascinating part. These things start out as brilliant survival tools. But if they stay up for too long, they can end up trapping a person, cutting them off from their own humanity.
Wow. This quote just perfectly captures that inner armor in action. This is from Santiago, a young man who grew up surrounded by violence. And for him, his armor wasn't being aggressive. It was the opposite. It was being quiet, being obedient, and shutting down all emotion. Because feeling nothing was way safer than feeling anything at all. And then, this happened. This was the moment the armor cracked. That one single moment of vulnerability was the beginning of his real healing journey. It just goes to show you, when we can create a space where someone can be heard without being judged, that's when repair can finally start to happen.
Now, this brings us to a really challenging, really deep part of the chapter, exploring the echoes of pain that actually connect the victim and the offender. Dr. Britton starts by looking at the victim's experience, which is so often wrapped in this protective silence. But that silence, as he explains, is its own powerful language.
It's so important to understand that this silence isn't emptiness. It's a way to hold everything together. He tells the story of James, a survivor of abuse, and shows how trauma literally fractures your sense of self. So for a victim, speaking out isn't just telling a story. It's a courageous act of putting yourself back together, piece by piece. And all of this sets the stage for one of the most powerful concepts in the whole book, the restorative justice encounter. This is where two worlds of pain, the victims and the offenders, actually meet in the same room. Each person is on their own journey, but for a moment, those journeys intersect.
I mean, can you even imagine? This is a quote from a mother speaking to the man who killed her son, and she says this: "It is a staggering shift away from revenge and towards something else entirely, understanding. The goal isn't to make him suffer more, it's to create a space where real moral recognition can finally happen."
And the effect in that room was transformative. For the first time, the offender, Michael, broke down and cried. And it wasn't a cry of weakness. It was the first sign of real moral clarity. This wasn't about simple forgiveness. It was about two people, for a moment, breathing the same air of pain and transforming it into a shared human understanding. So you have to be asking, okay, how is a transformation that profound even possible? Well, Dr. Britton lays out a clear path. It's a three-step journey that both victims and offenders can walk, a journey from the wound toward wisdom. So these three steps, which were first laid out by the trauma expert Judith Herman, they really trace the journey. It starts with creating safety. I mean, that makes sense, right? You have to feel safe. Then, slowly, you begin to reconstruct your own story. And finally, you start the process of reconnecting with the part of your humanity that was lost along the way.
Now here's where it gets really mind-blowing. This moral transformation isn't just a nice metaphor, it's actual biology. Our brains have what scientists are now calling moral plasticity. What does that mean? It means the very same circuits in our brain that can sustain violence can be rewired for empathy and compassion. The brain can change.
And if you need proof, just look at these stories. Raymond, a man who'd been in prison his whole life, confronts his own pain and then starts teaching other inmates how to read. Or Elena, a mother who, through finding compassion for herself, starts a reading circle in her prison. It's powerful evidence that empathy, even when it's deeply wounded, can be reborn.
And what fuels this whole journey? Hope. But Dr. Britton defines hope in a really interesting way. He says it's not just a passive feeling, it's an active decision. It's a form of moral resistance, and often it starts when someone else believes in you, long before you can believe in yourself.
So, let's zoom out. What does this all mean? Ultimately, this chapter challenges all of us to look in the mirror of crime and not see monsters, but to see our shared human fragility and the profound possibility for repair.
Dr. Britton argues that real justice is like a three-legged stool. It needs justice, science, and compassion. Any one of them alone isn't enough. Without understanding, justice just becomes revenge. Without compassion, psychology is just cold and calculating. You need all three, working together.
And this leads us to the huge takeaway for us as a society. It puts the responsibility on all of us. If we have a society that only punishes but never teaches, we're just perpetuating the cycle of violence. True prevention, he argues, is born from empathy.
So, Dr. Britton leaves us with this massive, essential question. It's a question that challenges the very foundation of how we think about crime and harm and healing. It's a huge question, and there are definitely no easy answers.
In the end, this chapter is just this incredibly deep dive into pain, empathy, and the radical, maybe even scandalous possibility of redemption. It leaves you with this powerful feeling that even in the most broken life, there's a spark of dignity just waiting for someone to see it.
Look, if any of this resonated with you today, I'm telling you, we have only scratched the surface. To really get the full weight of these transformative ideas, I highly, highly recommend you pick up a copy of Dangerous Minds on Amazon. It is an absolutely unforgettable read.
Thank you.